Newlands Park is in the south side of Glasgow, about 10 minutes walk south of Newlands. It was established in 1913 and is a very small park. The total perimeter edge is around 1 kilometre, but it contains tennis courts and a cafe and a small play area, as well as lots of paths and some beautiful trees. It's beautiful all year round, and most of the visitors are local people who live very close by. It used to have a full-time gardener, but we lost that, and like many of the other parks in the city, started to look a little bit neglected. And that's really when Friends of Newlands Park became established. In 2020, some local residents felt that really needed to be something done about maintaining the gardens, so they set up the Friends group. Much of the work that they do is gardening, general gardening maintenance, tidying up, trimming bushes. The heavy work will still get done by the council. One of the other things that the Friends group managed to re-establish was the community fete, which used to run for many years. After COVID, we started planning for a fete in 2022 and also ran one in 2023, but it was a huge amount of work. And the main beneficiaries were actually the scouts and the guides, who used it as main fundraising event for their groups. We took a break in 2024 because it was really too much work for us, but in 2025 the scouts and the guides took it over, and it is well attended by hundreds of local people every year. One of the things that the Friends group looked at in the park was the tennis courts, which were in a pretty neglected state and had been for many years. They managed to get some new nets from the nearby tennis club and tried to keep the red blaze clear, but it was a pretty uphill task. However, there were a couple of tennis enthusiasts involved in the Friends group, and they started to put together a business plan for renovating the courts, and went to Glasgow City Council with their plans. Having gone back and forward for a while, there was interest but no funding available. But then, by chance, the Lawn Tennis Association came along with their large amounts of funding to renovate park tennis courts across the country. Because we had a plan already in place, we were able to apply for funding and actually move very quickly. So within a period of 4 months, the tennis courts went from their very sad, neglected space to wonderful new forecourts, which are now run by a local not-for-profit community tennis centre, with infrastructure provided by the Lawn Tennis Association and some funding for a regular coach. And we were delighted that Judy Murray officially opened the tennis courts. With everything that happens, of course, sometimes it has a negative effect, and there was a small group of people that used to play pétanque in the Red Blaze, and with the new tennis courts they were unable to do that. So they asked the Friends group if it would be possible to start looking at planning for a new pétanque piste in the park. We felt it was quite a niche area, but we thought we wanted to support them, so we put out a survey through our Facebook group and other local community groups to see if there was actually much interest for pétanque. And we were actually blown away by the response. We had 212 responses very quickly, mostly an older demographic who were interested in playing pétanque. But it was also, there was a lot of interest in it as a multi-generational activity as well. A lot of people felt that they would play with their family, with children, with older relatives. So clearly a strong demand. So the next step for us was for volunteers to start researching technical specifications, the best likely location in the park for a pétanque piste, the size of it, how much it would cost. We reckoned that the maximum cost would probably be about £20,000, which was an amount that would be ideal for applying to the council for their outdoor sports developer contributions. So we duly did that in April 2025. It's now November 2025. We're still waiting for a response, which is very frustrating given that the tennis courts were done so quickly. One of the things that people have asked for a lot in the Facebook group was improved play facilities. We have a very small play park. It's not been refurbished for many years, and it's really very much skewed towards younger children. So again, we put out a survey to see what people thought of it. And not really surprising that generally it was felt that it was a pretty poor condition and not highly rated. Parents of younger children rated it slightly higher, which isn't really surprising because the equipment was geared for smaller children. But we wanted to ask about children's experience in the park as a whole, not just the very small play area. And as a whole, the rating for the park for children was actually much, much higher. Children did enjoy spending time in the park, which isn't really surprising to us. And we asked what children liked to do, what their favourite part of the park was. And in fact, it wasn't the play park at all. They enjoyed exploring the maze. They enjoyed climbing trees. They liked cycling. They wanted access to the pond, which was also a very long story. The pond had been closed off for 3 years due to an unsafe path. And despite the council having funding and despite constant emails from Friends Group to the council, it took 3 years before the pond was finally opened. So much to the delight of all the regular parkgoers. So, we're rethinking the play area because to put new play equipment in is going to be very expensive. And whilst the council does have funding for improving play areas, we believe that Newlands Park, being in a very affluent area, is probably going to be way down their list of priorities, which is fair enough. And it's also a park that has lots of trees and lots of natural space for children to explore. So we are looking at what else we can do to enhance it for the experience of children in the park. So we've looked at the older demographic, we've looked at children, but we realised that we really needed to think of Newlands Park as somewhere for everyone and really to have a bit of a more strategic plan about our priorities for improvements and changes in the park. So we recently ran a survey, a public consultation, which consisted of an online survey as well as face-to-face discussions. And we got nearly 300 responses, so we were delighted with that. We asked people a lot about how they used the park, what areas they liked, what they didn't like, and what additions they would like to see. And we got a long list of ideas as a result of that. High priority was public toilets, which kind of problematic, but certainly something that we're going to start looking at. Wildflower meadows, play structures, community orchard, lots of great ideas from people. At the same time, we know that different parkgoers have got different needs, and what's important to some people is less important to others. So there were 3 topics really that came up strongly in our Facebook groups all the time. One was grass cutting, another was dogs, and another was the lack of play equipment for children. So we thought it would be useful when we had our face-to-face conversations to ask people to rank where they felt they were and on the scale. And not surprisingly, there was a very widespread. But that does give us a feel for what people are looking for. We have to be very aware that we can't please everybody, that we have to draw a fine line about, providing facilities for some people that won't have a negative impact on others. So we need to plan carefully for what we do. So taking all of that into consideration, we've started to map out what people really want in the park and how complex it is and how much funding it would require. And that will give us the basis for a strategy going forward for the park. There's a few things that we believe are fairly straightforward that we're starting to work on already. There are things that are going to be more expensive and very complicated. We're starting to figure out how we can actually move some of these projects forward. But all of that requires both the buy-in from the council and, very importantly, more volunteers, because we're a very small team and we can't do it alone. So we need more people to get involved, to implement the plans, to maintain the park as it is, and bring a whole host of new skills to our very small group. Thank you very much for listening.